SpaceX remains confident they can renovate Starbase in 2 months. Starlink expands its reach. Falcon Heavy is at the altar of self-sacrifice. And we finish with today's honorable mention. I'm Kevin, and this is SpaceX in the News. It's been just over a week since the first Starship and Super Heavy booster lifted off for orbit from Starbase Texas on 4/20. And now that we've had some time to allow the smoke to clear, so to speak, let's take a peek at the damage left behind in the wake of her 33 Raptor 2 engines. Starting with the launch pad. The blast of the Fire NATO was so powerful that some of the newly installed shielding was ripped away and blown across the surrounding fields, along with pieces of the supporting concrete underneath the pad, as the engines dug into the Earth's crust, which pretty much left nothing behind other than charred debris and some bent-out-of-shape rebar. That's all that's left, tweeted Elon. Hopefully didn't gronk the launch mount. 3 months ago, we started building a massive water-cooled steel plate to go under the launch mount, but it wasn't ready in time, and we wrongfully thought, based on static fire data, that foundage would make it through one launch. Still early in analysis, but the force of the engines when they throttled up may have shattered the concrete rather than simply eroding it. The engines were only at half thrust for the static fire test, but he wrote after said test that they would be throttled up to 90% for this launch. Looks like we can be ready to launch again in 1 to 2 months. I'm not sure what he's looking at exactly. Although the tower looks as if it may have dodged the world's most powerful bullet, the rest of Stage 0 looks almost as bad as the streets of San Francisco. Almost. However, SpaceX agrees with Elon, confirming 2 months with NASA and calling last week's mission, quote, not a big downer. SpaceX teams have gathered the remains of their property, littered across the surrounding fields, and work to repair the OLM has already begun. It should also be noted that good news doesn't end with the treasure trove of data SpaceX is receiving from their successful test flight. Bloomberg reported that U.S. Fish and Wildlife determined that while a few surrounding areas were set ablaze and a few hundred acres were bombarded with chunks of concrete, no dead birds or wildlife has been seen. Yes, the FAA is requiring that SpaceX investigate, mitigate, and demonstrate the RUD and take corrective actions before they get another license for their next flight, but that is standard operating procedure for rockets that explode. Future Starships are still in development. Okay. SpaceX, of course, is still moving forward. For example, Ship 27 has been moved to the rocket garden, perhaps to be scrapped. Okay, bad example. Ship 28 is hung up in the mid-bay. Never mind. A fire broke out at Massey's last night. Let's just move on. I've been waiting on Elon to start his Spaces meeting on Twitter to give us the latest Starbase developments, but I'm still waiting, which is why this video is late and lacking further information. After a Wednesday scrub due to weather in the recovery area, Falcon 9 licked ground clouds during its ascent off Slick 4 at Vandenberg Space Force Base, California on Thursday morning, carrying 46 Starlink sats in this flock to the third orbital shell. It was lucky 13 for this reused booster, touching down oh so gently on Of Course I Still Love You, chilling on the Pacific. And apparently they put methane in this one. After a 15-month wait, I'm happy to report that Starlink has finally arrived at my house. But somebody forgot to order a mount and extension cable. Read the Wi-Fi name and guess the reference in the comments below so we can be friends. Anyway, speaking of Vandenberg, Space Launch Delta 30 announced on the 24th that SpaceX has been approved to lease a second pad at their base, Slick 6, which will be needed as overall missions from Vandy are expected to double this year. Earlier this evening, Falcon 9 took CES-03B mPOWER, a communications satellite, to Earth orbit from Slick 40 on the East Coast upon a twice-flown booster, if you include this mission, deploying it successfully, and landed on the just reading the instructions drone ship bobbing on the Atlantic. After its own series of delays that have caused a scheduled shake-up with the space station concerning AX-2 and possibly CRS-28, tonight's doubleheader, ending with Falcon Heavy, was scrubbed.
Falcon Heavy is in startup.
Great news there, folks. As you may have heard, there was an abort just called over the nets.
Now it's time for today's honorable mention. Launched aboard Falcon 9 back in December, iSpace's lunar lander spent the last few months journeying to and orbiting the moon via a low-energy ballistic trajectory. Well, on Tuesday afternoon, it finally came time to execute the landing near the Atlas crater, and iSpace streamed the event live on social media. While all appeared nominal during the majority of its descent to the surface, less than 30 seconds before touchdown, communication was lost.
20 meters, final approach. 10 meters. And our simulation might have lost its connection with the MCC.
At this moment, we have not able to confirm successful landing on the lunar surface.
A half dozen hours later, after the company had some time to analyze the data, they suggested the lander ran out of propellant. Well, that's all for this one. It's been good seeing you. Special shout out to those of you who have or are supporting the channel on Locals, YouTube, or Rumble memberships or tips, or even purchasing swag from our store. All of it is super appreciated. Have a phenomenal weekend. Until next time, Godspeed.